Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're taking a look at another premium Bandai HG kit here from Cucuruz Doan's Island. This is the Zaku High Mobility Surface Type Wald version. So we have taken a look at another version of this kit in the past. This one basically going to be a little bit different and coming with some different weaponry and stuff in there. But love this. This is basically like an HG, the Origins Zaku variation. Even though this is from Cucuruz Doan's Island, it's still a very similar kit like we've seen before. But really cool box art there on the front too, and we'll get into it here for today's video. Let's go ahead and get started. We got some really cool artwork here for this one, even though it's a premium Bandai box and it's just basically going to have around on the sides just the titling, and it's all going to be in just this monochrome bluish purple kind of color. But really cool shot of the painted kit, painted sample build here on the front in an action pose firing that it's called like the anti-ship sniper rifle kind of thing, like we saw from the original Char's Zaku kit in the HG The Origin lineup. I believe it's exactly the same rifle there. And then we've got this really cool marking logo right there from the group. So really nice box art. It would have been cool to see that in full color. But let's go ahead and pop it open here and check out the contents. Inside, we do have some waterslide decals included with this one, like we saw with the other version we took a look at before. We are probably going to have some stickers and some more stuff in here as well. But let's start off taking a look at the instruction manual, which is going to be all in black and white, so no frills here, no color. We do have our parts list there, and you can see we are going to have a few leftover parts here and there, but not really too much. On the inside of here, we do also have a color guide, obviously not in color, but the colors are there, and those are in Japanese and in English for you if you want to refer to the official colors for this. And then we've got a couple of just black and white photos of the built and painted kit. This is also showing you where all the decals are going to be placed around it. Now, the decals are interesting, but as for the rest of the manual here, it's just the construction of the kit. So pretty straightforward. If you've ever built any of the HG The Origin Zaku kits, you should have a pretty good idea what to expect. As for the waterslide decals, as you can see, and like we saw before, these are going to be mostly for the camo around on the kit. So you have these decals, which will give you your camo pattern. Now, how well these work on the kit, I've heard mixed reviews, mostly that these aren't really the best option. They are an option for you, but I would say if you really want to do this kind of multi-brown tone camo, there's other ways that you can do that, and you can look up kind of different ways of how camouflage is painted on military model kits. But as you can see, we do also have decals on here, like for the mono eye. And then up here, much more useful, I would say, is going to be these decals for adding some just like caution markings. You have some Xeon logos and some really cool Southern Cross decal logos that you can put on there, some of this red lining bits. So these are going to be the ones that I think are going to look really good on the painted kit. The camo ones, I mean, you might give them a try. Ultimately, though, like I said, probably going to be better off to just paint those. And we actually don't have any other stickers or decals other than the water slides included, so we can just get right into the runners. Here we have PC001 for some polycaps here in gray. Then we got a nice big full A runner here in 4 different colors, so some brown at the top, tan through the center, black over here on the side, and then a more kind of olive drab brown kind of color there for a couple of parts on the end. Runner B going to be a full runner here of the darker brown color. Looks really nice. Runner C in a medium gray color is going to be a more flexible runner here for the piping around on the legs, the torso, and the head. Runner D also in a medium gray color here is going to be our parts for all the joints and everything, kind of the inner frame runner for this kit. Runners E1 and E2, some more parts here in brown and tan. And then runner F is going to have the parts for the hands, the heat hawk, and the rifle. Again, this is the exact same runner that we've seen many times with other different HG The Origins releases. Runners G1 and G2, some more parts in tan and brown there. Love the details on the bottom side of the feet. That looks really cool. And then lastly, runners I and J. Now runner I is some parts like specifically for this variant, parts for the legs mostly, and then some skirting parts and that here too. So some more like inner frame parts there in gray. And then runner J2 is parts for the new rifle, which does have a different design on this. So this is one that does have a similar long barrel rifle kind of style design, but it is a little bit different. So that looks really cool. And we'll take a look at how this looks built up in the review portion. But that's it for the runner. So let's go ahead and get it built up and check it out. Alright guys, here's the kit all built up. It looks really good, except for one thing. It's kind of off-putting looking at the face of the Zaku and not being able to see any mono eye there, with it just being like a black part. It is an actual molded piece, and if you remember just from the waterslide decal sheet, we have a waterslide decal for that, but not an actual sticker. So let's go ahead and actually do something about that here real quick. This is one of the great uses for a Gundam marker, so I grabbed one of these fluorescent pink ones here for this mono eye will be perfect. But I think just to make sure that we get it nice and bright pink, considering this is black plastic, it'd be helpful to do white first. So I'm going to put a little drop of white on here. Anyway, that's a much better way to be able to actually see the mono-eye here on our mono-eye mobile suit. As you can see, just really cool design. Going to be a bit kind of mixed matched in terms of how the color is looking. I think it's definitely a design that looks really cool with that camo pattern, but if you don't want to use those waterside decals and you're just going to be painting that, it is something that kind of helps to tie the color scheme all together. I think as it is straight out of the box, the color is a little bit too like mixed up for my personal taste. I think I'll definitely enjoy repainting this in a little bit different color scheme. But just as far as the design goes, I mean, I really like this version of the Zaku 2. And so as for our accessories, we've got our typical hand options of having the holding hands for the left and the right side. And then we've got a trigger finger hand for the right side only and an open hand for the left side only. It's an open hand or a rifle support hand, which will certainly come in handy for this particular variation. For the heat hawk, again, as usual, we've got two versions. We've got the active heat hawk, which is going to be held in the hand. And then we've got the inactive version without the blade there. And this has the hard point right there on the side for plugging onto the side skirt right there. We've also got our action base adapter piece, because for some reason these kits are designed in a way to use action base adapters rather than using a hole up underneath the waist section there. But I think that's probably just due to the fact that they're wanting to have this moving hip gimmick up there for the better articulation. And if there was a hole there, maybe just not really enough space for that. But that said, if you didn't want to use this action base adapter piece, you could very easily just drill a hole right up in there as kind of the normal placement. And then we've got our anti-ship rifle. Now again, this is the same one that we've seen in a number of different HG The Origin kits. I think going back to the very first version of Char's Zaku 2 out in the line, if I remember correctly. But it's a really cool rifle design and definitely one that's nice to have included, even if we're not going to end up using it with this kit, because probably not going to end up using it when we have the anti-ship rifle Shorty, which is exactly the same, as you'll notice here at the back end. The handle and the magazine and everything, but the camera is different, and then obviously the barrel is different, so it's not going to have that long of a barrel. Still a pretty long barrel there, and still a pretty substantial camera on the side, but not quite as large of a camera unit there. And then yeah, the barrel is just going to be much different. This one features this really cool muzzle here on it, which looks really nice. That said, you are going to have a bit of a seam line here, which actually kind of rotates around. So the good point is that the seam line doesn't actually pass through any of those holes there. They made it so that it kind of curves a bit and just misses all the holes. But then here at the end of the barrel, you're definitely going to have a little bit of a seam there. You're going to just want to close that up. But really cool, unique kind of variation of that anti-ship long rifle. And then the really cool thing about this too is that with this, unlike with the original version, this magazine is actually removable. You can take that out, whereas with this one, that's not something that you can do. That's just stuck in there. And we actually have 3 of those magazines, one that goes in the rifle, and these 2 extra ones can be plugged onto the side of the shield right here. So those are going to attach onto there like that. It doesn't really seem like the best idea to have ammunition, which is highly explosive, here on your shield, which is meant to be kind of your main defense. But anyway, it's a decent place to store. I guess if you didn't want to have those stored there, if you wanted to have these like stored on the side skirts or something like that, you'd have to make like a little bit of a modification. Basically just like drill a hole and make a little like hard point. Now, the only issue might be because you have a little bit of that lighter colored fin kind of sticking out there on the side, might kind of get in the way of wanting to mount these onto the side skirt, but I think it'd be pretty easy to work around, and I think it would actually probably look a lot better to have these mounted on the side skirt. Either that or even better, like onto the back skirt or something, but again, it would just take a little bit of modification. You will notice we have a couple of more hard points here on the back skirt and on the backpack too, so if you wanted to use like the bazooka from a different HG The Origin kits, which has like a backpack connector piece, you can use that here with this. But here on the back skirt is also where we can plug one of the rifles here for storage. Now it's kind of cool how this works, because it's not just this connection piece which plugs right into there. Exactly, this little lighter colored piece is actually going to pop out and then fold up like that first, and we can attach this connection piece onto the rifle. And then the top part kind of acts as a clasp to hold this closed, so it's a really nice solid connection there for that, and it looks really cool, better than just kind of like the simple adapter piece. The fact that that part's an actual like part that lifts up and clasps around that works really nicely, so I like that a lot. Anyway, as far as the rest of the kit goes, like I said, it's all pretty familiar if you guys have built any of the HG The Origin kits. Basically, we have a lot of really nice articulation here with this double joints in the knees and elbows, and you'll see this one here in the knee is kind of interesting just because of the fact that we have like these big chunky parts here for the lower leg, that the knee part kind of pops out of the lower leg in there to get that nice full bend at the knee, but that works really nicely. And like I said, double joint at the elbows there. And the typical spot where we usually have a seam line here on the forearm is just made up as a panel line detail. I don't really prefer that, but at least it's not a seam line, so that's kind of okay. And then the other seam line that we have here is going to be the usual seam line on the shoulder pauldron here on this side. So you will have a seam line down the middle of that. It's not too noticeable, but it's also really easy to modify and get rid of that seams. So that's really kind of about the worst of it, really. Overall, this is a really cool kit if you're a big fan of the design. Now, because this is a version of the kit that we've seen quite a lot, I mean, it's not necessarily going to be one that I recommend for everyone. Essentially, it's just like a slightly different version with a new rifle. If you don't have any of these high mobility surface type Zakus from Cucuruz Doan's Island, then I would definitely recommend picking up one, like if you're a fan of them. As for if you wanted to get like all of them, you know, maybe not for everybody, because they're just going to be like slight variations. The fact that you have the waterside decals included is cool. Mostly it's just going to be for like the camo, which is not really all that useful. But you do have that new rifle included, which is a really cool new weapon for sure. Something that would be cool if they released like a system weapon set for like some of these Origin Zakus or something like that you could get just like as a set on its own with a bunch of these different weapon variations and things. But unfortunately, until that's available, this is basically just kind of what you have to go to. So it's one that I would definitely recommend to you guys if you're a fan of the design, if you like collecting these kits in their many variations. But if you feel like you're kind of tired of building the the Origin Zaku model kit, if you've already built a few of them, then, you know, there's not really going to be too much that this kit is really going to offer you. But at the end of the day, really nice construction, really fantastic articulation, details on these kits, fantastic. They're a lot of fun, and so I definitely really enjoy them, even though I've built kind of probably a dozen or more at this point, I feel like. And although all the different variations do have something different to offer, it does make them fun. I can understand why some people maybe are not too into collecting all of them, which makes sense. But this one's really cool, definitely looks awesome. Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you think about these? Are you collecting them, or are you just kind of tired of this kit at this point? Let me know. I'm anxious to hear your guys' thoughts, but as always, thanks so much for checking out the video. And if you want to check out some more Gunpla for yourself of the non-P-Bandai variety, you can check the link in the video description to USA Gundam Store. Got a whole bunch of stuff there on the website that you guys can check out. But until next time, hope you guys are all having a great day. I'll see y'all later. Bye bye.